and the Pledge of Allegiance. That'll be by Director Vice President Frank Donato will lead us in that.
I pledge allegiance to our flag, to the United States
of America, and to the republic, and stand one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's good to see so many new directors here, and we're on the verge of coming, back to where it was before the pandemic, and we're getting there. Anyway, we've got the 4 directors tonight, and I'm sure we're going to see more in the future. Some directors had previous commitments. Okay, Madam Secretary Holly, if you could do the roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Division 7, Gary Van Dam. Division 6, Audrey Miller.
Here.
Division 5, Robert Paris.
Here.
Division 2, Keith Dias.
Here.
Division 1, Shelley Sourceable.
Here.
Division 3, Frank Donato.
Here.
Division 4, George Lane.
Here.
General Manager Knutson.
Here.
General Counsel Markman.
Actually, Tilden Kim is here today for Mr. Markman.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. And Holly Hughes present.
Thank you. For anyone listening, again, it's voluntary, but if you'd like to just announce who's listening in on the now's the time to do so.
Vincentino, Palmdale Water District.
Hi, George. This is John Joyce reporting for the Acton Awadilsey News.
Hey, John.
Hey.
White Fence 3, Jack Cephas.
Guy Newcasted, White Fence Farms.
Ben Stewart, Roseman Community Service District.
Great, and thank you. And just a reminder, everybody's welcome to attend the meeting in person if they would wish to do so in the future. But it's great to have all of you taking an interest in AVAC and what's happening. But yeah, thank you much. The next item number 5 is public comments and period open to the public. So if anyone wishes to address the board and an item is not later on the agenda, now's the time to do so. And we're pretty lax on that. So whenever anybody has anything they want to say, just let us know. But if there's nothing at this time, we'll move on to item number 7. Item number 6, adoption of agenda. So we need a motion for that. We have a motion for adoption of the agenda.
President, this is Rob. I move we adopt the agenda.
Rob, thank you. A second? Okay, Madam Secretary.
Gary Van Dam. Audrey Miller.
Yes.
Robert Paris.
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes.
Shelley Sourceable.
Yes.
Frank Donato. George Lane.
Yes. It's ordered. We'll move to item number 8, the consent calendar. We have 2 items on the consent calendar. Item A1, item A2, the minutes, special board meeting of December 20th, and accept the check register. We have a motion. Motion, please.
Mr. President, this is Rob. I move we adopt the consent calendar.
Okay, we have a second.
To Director Miller, second.
Okay, is there any discussion? If not, Madam Secretary.
Gary Van Dam. Audrey Miller.
Yes.
Robert Paris.
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes.
Shelley Sourceable.
Yes.
Frank Donato. George Lane.
Yes. So we'll move on to item number 9, and we're going to get a little bit more information and the crux a little bit of the financial situation of AVAC, which is good. In 9A1, consideration and possible action on accepting the treasurer's report for the month ending December 31st. And that's been looked at by the Finance Committee and Administration and the manager. So we need a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
This is Keith. I'll make a motion that we accept the treasurer's report.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Yeah, we're gonna have a presentation.
Okay, should I give the?
Okay, let's, Matt, we'll go to you first.
Yeah, I'll introduce this item. In recent months and years, we've seen the treasurer's report on the consent calendar in the past. President Lane requested that this be an open session, and we just take a few minutes to have Teresa come and once a month give an update on the treasurer's report to the full board, make sure that the full board is up to date on where things are at. We went through this report in detail at our finance committee last week, and Teresa did such a good job. We invited her back this evening. So, Teresa, you could.
Teresa, you show, thank you.
Okay, tonight we'll just take a look at some of the highlights. Good evening, board members. As mentioned, this is the treasurer's report for December. And some of the highlights for this month, we're looking at page 1. This is the summary page for the total portfolio. So the total portfolio for the agency includes the Wells Fargo investment account, which is Avek managed, as well as the PFM managed portion of the portfolio. There's also some funds in LAIF, which is Avek managed. So for the total balance, the average yield to maturity for the total portfolio is 2.353% at December 31st, which was up 0.071% from the prior month. Average days to maturity for the total portfolio was 259 days, or approximately 9 months. You can see we also have our checking account balance here. And if you move down to total cash and investments, you can see at December 31st, $164.6 million for the total portfolio. Compared to November 30th, when it was $151.2 million, we're up $13.3 million from the prior month. The increase is due to property taxes that we received. As you know, we get the bulk of our property tax revenue in December and April. So we see the $13.3 million increase in December. Okay, let's take a look at page 2. This is a summary of the total portfolio, broken out by the different investment accounts. So you can see the Wells Fargo investments, PFM, LAIF, and our checking account. And to the right, you can see the percentage breakdown of each of those accounts. We also list the capital assets, as well as the outstanding COP and bond debt balances at December 31st, and the capacity fees we've received through the fiscal year December 31st, 2022, and the prior year 2021. So that's July 1st through December 31st for each year. And we'll just take a look at the next page, which, what's that? Okay, page 3, Holly. This is a bar chart, which is a summary again of the total portfolio. The yellow line is the LAIF balance. The pink line is the investment balance for the Wells Fargo account and the PFM account. There's a small blue bar, that's the checking account balance. And then the tall blue bar is the total portfolio balance for each of those months. The black bar in the middle represents the LAIF interest rate, just to give the board an idea of what the interest rate has done over the past 12 months. So you can see January it was at 0.234%. December it was up to 2.173%, so up 2% in the last 12 months. And I will stop there and ask if there's any questions.
We can't hear Frank.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay, I said, we had the finance meeting, I was looking at the comparison of late percentage of return on our, investments. I'm looking at here, it seems like, I don't know, where's it at?
Okay, if we look at page 2, on the top left, you can see the Wells Fargo, the percentage earnings,
Oh, yeah, okay.
2 point,
The
yeah.
color coded.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna check on, I guess they're coming, what, next meeting to do the?
Yeah, PFM will be here for the finance meeting. He's scheduled to be at finance.
Okay.
And-
We'll discuss those items.
Yeah,
Because what I pointed out was the return on investment, rate was, 2.173, and PFM was only 1.978%. And I had a little bit of a, I don't know, concern, but issue.
Yeah. yeah, we can, when he presents his report, he'll go through and talk about what makes up our
And the
earnings.
comment I made, I'm not saying there's something to be considered, is that if that doesn't improve, we might as well just put the money in late, because there we can pull it out anytime we want.
Yeah,
So I think they're probably gonna wanna do it, probably gonna do something that's gonna be a miracle rate.
yeah,
Okay.
well, we'll see.
President, I have a question. Teresa?
Yes.
Are we permitted to have an interest-bearing checking account?
We do have an interest-bearing checking account for the capital account, which is with Met.
Right.
The way our checking accounts work with Wells Fargo, it does earn interest, but it offsets fees. So we don't really see it on a percentage rate. They give us a breakdown on an analysis statement. So I guess it does earn interest, but it's not that simple.
What kind of fees does it offset and what interest rate does it earn? Do you know?
I don't know offhand. I would have to look.
And are we required to have our checking with Wells Fargo?
No, we're not. That's
Have we checked any local banks like Mission Bank has one of the highest interest rates? It's a local bank. Maybe we should start acquiring.
yeah. We can definitely look and see what else is out there if that's what the board wants to.
We also have to be cautious on the FDIC maximum is $250,000 per account.
That's true.
Yeah.
So
Wells Fargo
Wells,
revolves it.
yes, we have to check if they can.
Yeah.
So that's a good point. Maybe you
Yeah.
can go to that.
Okay.
Because
Yeah,
I'm
we'll
gonna give
definitely
a
look
response
into
to
that.
If there's something they can do that's compatible to Wells Fargo, I prefer to keep the money local if we can.
Okay.
Yeah, good comments. Years ago, we used to rotate, every 3 years, we'd go out with proposals and change occasionally. So we haven't done that a number of years, but yeah, that was the practice, years ago. Good comments.
Yep. We'll look at that.
Okay, is there any comments from anybody listening or in the? Teresa, it was a good report. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And in the finance committees, we're going to ask for a quarterly report in front of the entire board and try to have our financial advisors here.
Okay.
Maybe not. Yeah, we have different ones with Lath and Wells Fargo, but we're going to try to see that in the future, at least on a quarterly basis, or if we need more often, we'll do that. But okay, if there's nothing further. We already have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary.
Gary Van Dam, Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Shelley Sorsable,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes, so ordered. Thank you. And next item, we'll move on to item 9A2, and we're looking at an adjustment laboratory testing fees. It hasn't been done in a while, so we have recommendations, and we'll start off, Matt. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I can introduce this. Good evening again. This is Matt. So this item came about during discussions with the Finance Committee. Item 9A3 that we're going to consider next was brought to the Finance Committee for recommendation. And then we got into discussion about last time we updated and reviewed our lab fees that we charge for outside lab services or outside folks to come to AVAC to perform lab services. So we went back at the direction of the Finance Committee, and Jordan Ray, who is here this evening, she's our laboratory manager. She worked with her staff and looked at other agencies, what they're charging, looked at our cost associated with performing these various tasks, and we came back with a recommendation that Jordan's going to go through. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan, thank you. On item A2 and A3, you can talk about them both, so just do it all at once, and afterwards we'll do a motion separately on the items. But
Okay. Good evening, board members. So while a vast majority of the work we do in the lab is for the agency, we're also open to customers. We provide various services for a fee. Last time we raised this fee was in 2015. So the board had a good idea, recommended we go and make sure that we're still covering our costs and everything. So we performed a fee analysis. We looked at increase in salaries and also increase in materials. And then since the last time we increased our prices, labor and materials have gone up an average of 30%. So, and then we also reached out to other labs for a price comparison. And we found that a price increase of $5 to $10 across the list of analysis would align us more with similar labs. And then it would also allow us to cover our costs in future years due to inflation. So we are recommending that the board approve the updated fee schedule that's listed in the table there on the slide.
Okay.
And then, do you want me to go to the next?
Yeah, please.
Okay. And so, 1 second, sorry. California Department of Parks and Recs reached out to us. Every 2 years, they request a bid from the agency to provide a fee per sample for their raw and treated water of different parks in the area. This new contract would be effective January 2023 to 2025. And then the fees for the water quality test requested, they are attached in the solicitation included in the agenda. And it's based on the previous updated fee schedule. And so in total, this agreement would bring in an extra laboratory income of up to $6,880 for the duration of the contract.
Okay, great. Is there any comments or questions from the board?
In the area, we have none. People either have to go to Bakersfield, down in LA. There's a lab in Santa Paula. So really they would, depending on where they are in the valley, they have to drive quite a ways. But you can see there's some on the previous slide, there's the labs we looked at, and then the locations that they're in and their pricing that they charge.
Do we do any testing for Apollo Park?
No. Our biggest customer, Quartzville Water District, started bringing samples in recently. We do a lot for Cal Parks, Department of Water Resources, Lake Elizabeth, all the small water systems, they bring in their back to use. On the top table, you can see for each test what the increase would be.
It's over 7 years. We have business since 2015, right?
We were still covering costs, but it was good to look at and make sure that we were.
And probably most of our samples are for the first two rows, the presence, absence for back testing correct, Jordan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say 95% of the samples we do are routine customers. You'll get the occasional. So then we have to spend a little bit more time with them, but materials cost still the same.
Okay, if there's no further questions, we thank you. Good job, Jordan. Thank you. We would need a motion for item 9A2, just fees for the coming year.
Yeah, Mr. Donato, I'll move we approve the 982 regular fees increase.
Okay, a second.
Is that 9A1 or 9A2?
A2.
Okay.
Okay. Madam Secretary?
Who's the second? Was that you, Shelley?
No.
Okay. Excuse me.
Director Miller.
We have a second?
Director Miller will second.
Okay, we had one from Gary. Okay, yeah, thank you. Next time, Audrey. Madam Secretary.
I'll do it on the next one, yeah.
Okay.
So second by Gary Van Dam. Gary Van Dam, Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Shelley Sorsable,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Okay, that'll bring us down to item 983, serve laboratory testing with California Department of Parks and Recreation. So we need a motion. Audrey?
I'll also move.
Okay, we have a motion. Thank you, Audrey.
Mr. President, it's Rob, I'll second.
It was motion second. Okay, no further discussion.
Do we need to highlight some more of this or not?
She covered pretty much everything that we were going to present this evening.
Okay, Madam Secretary?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Shelley Sorsable,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Okay, that's so ordered. And it'll bring us down to Water Master Groundwater Committee report. And Matt, we'll turn that.
Okay.
Does anybody on the committee would like to start? If not, we'll ask Matt to comment on it.
Yeah, Chair, Director Paris, you're chair of that committee. Is there anything you'd like to say before we get started?
Yeah, I'd like to have you do the presentation.
I'm going to hit the highlights of items we discussed. Just a reminder that this is the opportunity for the directors to give direction to Director Paris, who is our representative on the Water Master Board. So to start off, some of you may have heard the news, but Adam Mariki, who represents District 40 on the Water Master, he is stepping down from that position as a board member on the Water Master, and he is being replaced by a gentleman by the name of Russ Bryden. So a few years ago, Russ Bryden took Adam Mariki's position within Waterworks District 40, and tomorrow will be the first meeting to welcome Russ and get him up to speed on where things are at. Tomorrow will also be the first meeting that the Hallmark Group takes over 100% as the new administrator for the Water Master. So AVAC staff and Palmdale staff are going to step aside and support Hallmark, but it's kind of their show tomorrow, so be easy on them. And then item number 7 on the agenda for tomorrow, we're going to elect the new officers. Our hope is to keep that status quo with Director Paris serving as the chair of the Water Master Board. So we'll see how that goes. Another item is item number 14, which is on page 55 of your agenda. Hallmark Group is recommending an amendment to their contract to complete what they refer to as a rate assessment, outreach, and develop a fiscal policy for the Water Master. We think it's too early to recommend this amendment to the Hallmark Group. So our direction or recommended direction to Chair Paris is to push this item and not commit to amendment number 2. We think that this needs further discussion before we authorize any more money to the Hallmark Group. Item number 15, we have a few new production applications.
Can I comment on that one for sure? So this item, I'm pretty sure the advisory committee had problems with too, so it'll probably be brought up by the landowners reps. And if that's the case, I won't, since I'm chair, I won't take that type of action. But if no one brings it up, obviously I'll follow the will of the board and have that tabled.
Rob, it was my understanding that they locked in for 1 year, not going to raise the rate for 1 year. Sounds like they're in a close meeting.
I'm sorry. My understanding they're for 1 year locked in rates. This is their first meeting. They're wanting to raise rates already.
Well, yes, the agreement was to lock in, and I think at $150,000 a year, which was
168.
168, which was basically what we had been paying for the services plus a little bit. So, and I think that was what came up at the advisory committee too.
Yeah.
Did you hear that at the advisory?
Yeah, the recommendation from the advisory committee is to not approve this item tomorrow and discuss it further. So we'll take their lead and recommendation on this.
That's what I would suggest.
Yeah. Also at the recommendation of the advisory committee, item number 15A will most likely be pulled from the Water Master agenda. It's a new production application associated with a development on Barrel Springs Road near 40th Street East. It's within Palmdale Water District service area. So they have a lot of questions that need to be worked out on that application before it gets approved. So chances are, like I said, the advisory committee will push to pull that item.
Could you tell the board what the development's for?
So in the application, my quick read of it is they're requesting 120 acre feet of groundwater production per year. It's for growing vegetables and having crops, and also housing for what they label as low interest or low income farming assistant housing. Or farm worker housing for this new crop or orchard that they plan on building. So like I said, there's a lot of questions on that. It'll most likely get pulled.
So one of the things I've asked to be defined is for the water master is to define the inch of the pipe, what is considered domestic, and what is considered commercial. Because they're applying for domestic well, and I calculated the numbers, that will not work. Number one.
Right.
We need to define that within the water master, so the public, when they're coming to, apply for a domestic well, they're told, it says in the ruling that you can't go any higher than 8 inches. Whatever that is, whatever that amount is, but the diameter and the draw of the pump that is needed for, I figure it's 50 acres of 4 acre feet. I don't know how they're going to do that with 150 acre feet of water. So we asked them to identify one is a truly a domestic well,
right?
And so that was one of the issues I had.
Yeah, because the small pumper class is what, up to 3 acre feet? I believe a small pumper can pump up to 3 acre feet, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So where would the 120, how would they be able to get a right to pump 120 acre feet?
Well, that's what they're seeking, and that's
Okay.
what needs to be approved by the water master and the engineer.
Right, but wouldn't they have to buy that?
Yeah, they would.
rights from-
They would be subject to replacement water. So they're requesting approval up to 120 acre feet. Their well would have to be metered, and then they would pay replacement water assessments on every acre foot that they pump.
Right. Now, would they have to do a material harm study
Yes,
at that time?
that's correct. That's part of the study that the engineer has to do.
Okay.
Okay.
It just, one question, either, Matt or Rob. Do you feel this is just for housing or for farming? Because you can't afford farming at those prices.
Yeah, I think it's combination, and we need to find out more. That's why it's going to be recommended to be pulled, because there's a lot of questions.
Yeah, when I read it, there was like 127 bathrooms to be built. So 120, was that right? 127 bathrooms?
I didn't see that detail.
Yeah, that's what I read. But,
Yeah.
So it just told me that there was quite a bit more going on than farming.
Yeah.
Everybody might want to read that.
Yeah. The rest of the items are pretty routine. There's a few transfers and new replacement well applications. But I'd be happy to answer any question if any item jumps out to any board member.
Pat, cover the Long Valley Road one, it's 300 acre feet, just so the board's aware of what that's for and why that's up there.
Yeah, good point. So item 15B, Long Valley Road, which is requesting 300 acre feet of new production. So this is a long time nursery out on the east end of the valley. It's on Palmdale Boulevard and was it 140th or so?
165th.
165th, yeah, east. And so they currently don't have a production right in the judgment. They have continued pumping groundwater, but they've satisfied their replacement water obligation by transfer, buying water from other folks that have a production right or carryover water. So their previous application, set to expire. So they're applying for new production to continue their operation. So they'll either have to pay replacement water for this water pump or assessment, or they'll have to continue getting a transfer to satisfy that production. So
Have they intervened into the judgment?
they're already in the judgment.
Right.
I think they were listed as a small pumper.
Small pumper.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. They're in Exhibit 4?
Not Exhibit 4, small pumper. So, yeah.
So they're up to 3 acre feet.
300 acre feet.
Well, I mean, small pumpers.
Oh, yeah.
3 acre feet.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they missed out somehow during the adjudication and in the lawsuit.
Yeah.
So they missed out on seeking a production right.
And replacement water is 525 an acre foot?
Yeah, 523 right now.
523.
Yeah.
Okay, very good discussion.
All right. Thank
Is
you.
there anything more? Do we need a board order on this, or is this more of a report?
It's more of a report. Just if there's anything specific that the board wants to give direction to Director Paris, now would be the time.
I've listened in on several of those meetings, and Rob does a really good job as chairman of it. And I don't know if it's going to. What we can do is not a board order, but I'd like to recommend that the board supports Rob to be president again.
Yeah.
Again, we can't do much about it, but I don't know if that's a proper board order at this time since it's not on the agenda or not.
Yeah. I don't think we don't have it listed that way. I mean, it is on the agenda of the Water Master meeting, and the wording on our agenda is provide guidance for that Water Master meeting agenda. So,
This is Shelley. I agree that Rob should stay as the president.
Can we make a motion as such? Is there legal counsel?
Hilden?
Yeah.
So is the question, is it legal, proprietary to make a motion for that with the agendizing?
we would move to support Rob Parrish continuing to be reelected as chairman of the committee.
I think it's within the boundaries of the agenda that has been set forth. So if there's a motion, then it could carry.
Okay, I'll make a motion that the AVAC board nominates Rob Harris to represent AVAC, and if the rest of the
Frank,
board,
could I ask that the language is support? Because if you say nominate, that would force me to probably nominate myself. So if AVAC's supporting the nomination, I think
I'll rephrase that.
Great, thanks.
The AVAC board supports Rob on the Water Master Board.
I'll second.
I'll second the motion. Oh,
Okay, we have a motion that the second, Zoom?
this is Keith.
Okay, Keith, very well, okay, is there any further discussion on the item?
Yeah, is that, how many years is that term, Rob? 2?
We re-elect every year and
Every
have
year?
been since the beginning, yeah.
Oh, I thought it was a 2-year term.
I don't think so. I think we've been re-electing every year.
Yeah.
Matt, you?
That's correct, every year.
And how long have you been on there so far?
And so-
As of tomorrow, I'll be the last charter member of the Water Master Board.
So since 2016.
Right.
Yeah.
Time flies.
You're doing a great job on there, Rob. Thank you.
Gary, thank you very much, and all of you thank you for your support.
Okay, we have a motion and second. If there's no further discussion, Madam Secretary, we have a roll call.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Pierce,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Shelley Sorcible,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
and George Lane.
Yes.
And again, board, thank you very much for your support.
I don't know if we're being kind to you or not, Rob, but you never know. Okay. Okay, we're moving on to item number 10, General Manager report on the water supply and the projects and programs. So, Matt,
Right.
you got
Yeah,
talk
I'm going to
about.
tag team the presentation this evening. So I'll go ahead and start. And then Vance is here, Holly.
So we got 100% allocation?
Oh yeah, that would be great, wouldn't it? Unfortunately, it's still at 5%. Typical.
There's smoke in the one.
No, that way. There we go. All right. So we'll start off with our typical forecast. I get to play weatherman here for a couple minutes. So this is looking at the Feather River Basin 10-year look ahead. So as you know, we've had a little break from all the precipitation and snowfall in earlier part of January. It's looking like it's going to continue to be clear up there through January 29th. There is a potential for some precipitation beginning next week on Monday through Wednesday. Snow levels are going to fluctuate within this region, dropping to about 3,000 feet by Monday and hovering around 3,500 through Sunday. Not much precipitation, only a little over an inch, but any bit helps at this point. This is a cool chart because it really shows the impact of the December and January precipitation that we got up there in the Northern Sierra 8-station index. So the dark blue dashed lines, as you know, that's long-term average for each month, water year beginning in October through September. So we're pretty close to average for the month of November. December and January, we blew the average away. You can see at the last meeting, we were at 75% of the average for January. And since that time, we received another 9 inches up in that region. So as of yesterday, we're 175% of average for the month of January. And, about the same for the month of December. So as far as precipitation, things are looking good. We'll see how the next few months shake out. You can see January through March are really the key months to capture as much as we can up there. One more slide. As far as the cumulative rainfall, we're at 37.4 3 inches. So we're about 148% of average for this date. That light blue shaded area is the average. And you can see, like I said, based on this date, we're right about 148%. So we're tracking pretty close to the wettest year back in that we received in 2016-17. So we'll, like I said, we'll see how the next couple months shake up. Backing up a little bit. One slide. There we go. All right, this is Lake Oroville level. You can see we're currently about 2.2 million acre feet of storage in Lake Oroville. We're currently 62% of the total capacity. This reservoir holds about 3.5 million acre feet, and we're at 62% of that. We're a little over 100%, went at 109% of historical average for this date. So things are looking pretty good in the Lake Oroville storage. Next slide. As you can imagine, they're pumping hard and putting a lot of water in San Luis Reservoir. There's talk about it spilling in, what was it, Dwayne, March or April of this year if the trend continues. So you see that dark blue line is really taking off, and we're 53% of total capacity and 74% of historical average. So with the runoff continuing and heavy pumping, we anticipate this level continue to go up at a pretty high rate. There is talk about Article 21 water. It's kind of hard to believe. We're currently at 5% year. They're talking about spilling San Luis and offering Article 21 water, like I said, maybe in March or April. So we're ensuring that all of our banking projects are ready to receive water once we get word of Article 21 water being available, and delivering as much as we can to the Westside Water Bank, Upper Amargosa, etc. We will. That will be part of our water supply plan, but that will be table A water that we hold back in San Luis.
We haven't cleared it out.
No, we've depleted our. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So St. Louis is still with no more place to put the water in there. What are they gonna do with the water?
Wayne, could you maybe help out here?
Sure. What it'll end up doing, the water will go to various water banks in the San Joaquin Valley that can accept the water, but the reality is it'll go to the ocean.
That's how much you're saying.
Yeah, it goes to the ocean.
So that's why that point is that we need to get the article.
21. Yeah.
And so we can pump the heck out of it and put it in our banks.
Right.
To make that happen. So
what Article 21 water does is you can take as much as you possibly can, and it doesn't count against your allocation.
Right. What about net? Now, net, Diamond Reservoir must be low because of the Colorado River situation. So it sounds to me that they'll be taking a ton of water.
They'll take everything they can to fill all their reservoirs, yes.
Okay. Well, at least that's good news.
Yeah, it's great news.
And then, okay, so it doesn't count against our data lake allocation. Then things start to most likely slow down. Then we'll be able to bank that water for carryover, some of that takeaway water from the following year.
Right. Yeah. The plan would be to add water into San Luis so we have a good source of water for next year during the peak period. And then with the balance of any table A water above demand, to bank that in our banks over the course of the year.
The Amaposa Creek project, we spent money. How much money can we flow down that river? 10,000 acre feet of water?
The project's designed for about 7,000 acre feet per year, and we own or have capacity to 50% of that.
That should help that's the most depleted area in that region. So you put a lot of water in there, that's going to really help out that whole area.
Yep. Exactly. So, when Article 21 goes, you open up Amagosa and put as much water as you can in there too.
Yeah.
Along with the West Side Water Bank and the others. You just fill them all up quickly as you can.
Did you have a question, Rob?
Yeah, how is Article 21 water allocated? Is based upon our yearly
State water
allocation?
project capacity. So, every contractor has capacity within the state water project
Right.
to move the water. So it's allocated based on that capacity.
On capacity?
Yeah.
Any idea what we possibly could get, or?
I'd have to look at our chart, but it's in the 200 acre feet a day.
200. Yeah, we a little over 200 acre feet a day is what we could produce if we're able to put into the system, if we're able to max out all of our turnouts coming into.
But doesn't it also depend on where it's being taken at in the aqueduct? Like further west, we can pull more water out of there than we can further east.
That's correct. Yeah, the 200 acre feet is the max we can do out of the west feeder, and then you'll add Amagosa, the east side, as smaller portions that could be added to that 200 acre feet.
Did Big Rock Creek qualify for that?
It would, except for we aren't able to put a lot of water through there because of the other issues that we have with that.
Too many cars get dirty.
Too many cars get dirty. We're going to submerge a couple of cars over Avenue T.
So we're limited by our capacity, not necessarily the state aqueduct capacity?
That's correct.
And so this next slide just shows the change in the key reservoirs. You can see Shasta Lake up Northern California has gone up 63 feet in elevation since the end of December. Lake Oroville has gone up 127 feet in the same time frame. San Luis Reservoir has gone up about 50 feet, and Folsom Lake, which is a CBP project reservoir, has gone up 33 feet. So the trend continues. Hopefully see that in the coming months. Next slide. So today there was supposed to be what they call a State Water Project Contractors Operations Committee update, where we get the latest on the snowpack and the hydrology and the analysis that they go through to determining updated State Water Project allocations. That meeting got moved till Friday, so we anticipate on Friday learning of our new allocation number. As I mentioned earlier, we're currently at 5%. There's talk about it going up to 15, 20%, possibly by the end of this week, early next week. So really good news for the agency. At this point, we're going to switch gears. I'll invite John Bozigan, our operations manager, up, and he's going to talk through our Port Sale Water Treatment Plant winter maintenance project.
All right, good evening, everybody. So, if you remember that at the last board meeting, Matt told the board that we shut the Port Sale plant down for annual maintenance. And we thought this would be a good opportunity to tell the board why we shut the plant down and some of the things that we do while we're shut down. This first slide, let's go back. We have to go back one. Okay, so this first slide, this is an overview of the Port Sale plant. And you all know where that's at. It's the Port Sale plant here. We are a 90 MGD facility. Okay, we expanded the plant in 2009 from 65 to 90 million gallons a day if we're running at full capacity. And most of the time, the plant is, you're submerged. All the channels, all the clarifiers, filters, everything's submerged. So you can't really get to anything to do maintenance. So we take it offline every January for 2 weeks, and we drain, depending on how many clarifiers are full at the time, we can drain up to 5 million gallons of water out of this plant. And where we put it is, we put it in these wash water basins, we put it in these drying ponds. We put it across the street. You've seen these drying ponds. And when the plant is put back in operation, this water is pumped back to the headworks of the plant and retreated. So none of it gets wasted, which is a good thing. Okay, so we have 3 moss screens at the Quartzo plant. One is at the aqueduct. That's this one here. This was installed, I think, about 15 years ago. And the other 2 are at the headworks of the plant. So the water comes from the aqueduct. It goes through that first moss screen. Then it goes through these secondary moss screens, these 2 that are in the plant. And what they do is they catch a lot of the solids that are in the aqueduct, a lot of algae, clumps of moss, fish, tires, things, whatever's in the aqueduct. We don't want it coming into the plant. So we contracted with IWS, International Water Screens, to pull these screens because during the summer months, these screens run 24/7. So you can imagine there's a lot of wear and tear on them. This is a great time to pull these screens. They take them back to their shop, they rebuild them, and they put them back in place. So we're ready to go for another year. Usually, it's just the wear parts on the screen, but probably every 5 years we have to fully rebuild them because they do take a lot of beating. Okay, so you can imagine, you're running this plant 50 weeks out of the year, and a lot of organic matter. We use the term sludge. We're not supposed to. That's a wastewater term, but we'll use it today. So a lot of sludge gets in parts of the plant that we can't get out. Back in the day, operators would take fire hoses and squeegees and spend about a week and a half, and we'd clean the plant up pretty good, use the interior drains and so forth. But when we expanded the plant, it changed the configuration, a lot of the channels, and we can't get in there to do that type of cleaning anymore. So we hire an industrial services company, and that's ERS. They've done it for several years. They do a great job. They bring in these big vacuum apparatus, these trucks, and they spend about 3 or 4 days, and they go into these channels that we can't get to, and they pull all this organic matter out and get it real clean, and then what we have is great water quality for the rest of the year. If we were to leave this in the plant, you would start having taste and odor problems in the water. It'd be a big problem. So this is part of what's done every year. Staff still can get into certain areas of the plant with fire hoses and squeegees, so we still do some of that work. Okay, this is a channel that's been cleaned. I mean, look at. Let's say you could eat off that floor, but I probably wouldn't. But it's clean comparatively to what it was. So that's the filter influent channel. That's the water that's gone through 75% of the treatment process, goes into this channel, and then goes into the individual filters from there. Okay, this is our filter effluent channel. And it's also, see, this could be like a great escape room if we were renting out part of the plant while it was off. But we don't do that. So this is a channel that was built in 2009 as part of the DBP project. And this takes water, clarified water, and it takes it through this long, narrow channel, about 350 feet long, to the ozone contactor. And that's the midpoint of the plant where we add ozone to the water. And that's, again, very clean. They do a great job. And let's see, next slide. Okay, so the Quartzo plant, any treatment plant, is a huge concrete structure. That's what it is. And when you build a big concrete structure, what does concrete do? It cracks. Well, to prevent the cracking on big structures like this and bridges you see on the freeways, they leave what's called expansion joints or construction joints. And these are joints that are intentionally left between concrete panels, and they're filled with this expanding material. And this flexible material allows the plant, the concrete, to expand and contract seasonally, and it eliminates that crackage that's so prevalent with concrete. Over the course of years, though, you can imagine it's like caulking. It shrinks, it pulls away. And then what happens is the water can undermine the concrete structure. Like this shot here is at the bottom of a clarifier. So if water gets under here, it can actually cause lifting of the concrete. So what we've done is the last several years, we have a company called Elite Concrete Restoration. They come in and they remove the old material, they prep the joint, they put in new material, and honestly, it should be good for 30 plus years if it's done correctly. Yes, Frank?
Then remove the caulking, is that what they do?
Yeah.
Put new caulking in.
Put new caulking in, they fully remove it, they put what's called backer rod in there, flexible backer rod, and they put this material, it's called Sikaflex. It's NF61 approved for water, and it adheres really good, but really it's like anything. It's like painting a house. It's all in the prep. The better prep you do, the better job you're going to have. So they spend a lot of time prepping, and they lay in this material, and we expect it to last 30 plus years. But keep in mind, we have lots of facilities. We can only do so much at each facility per year. So this is going to be an annual event at all of our facilities till we get it all done. This next shot is the filter effluent channel, and we had a massive leak. This is the bottom, this is the floor. They've already done that. You can see this is the vertical seam. We had a huge leak in this where water was actually leaking outside of the plant. And so we had to take some kind of hokey measures to stop that until we could get this plant shut down. But we did stop the leak, and they came in, and this has not been, you can see this is old, this has not been removed yet, but they have removed it and replaced it. So that leak has been repaired, thankfully. Okay, one of the biggest things we do and most challenging things we do is valve replacement. Courtsville Treatment Plant has 24 20-inch filter effluent valves. Each filter has an effluent valve. And these valves are, the original valves are almost 50 years old. When the plant was expanded in 1989, those valves are 30 plus years old. So once these valves start leaking, what happens is when you take a filter offline to backwash it, you're isolating the filter, you're bringing water up through it, you're backwashing it, you're removing all the impurities in the filter and sending it out to the wash water basin. But if these valves leak, you're sending some of those impurities into the filter effluent channel, which goes straight into the clear well. So what we do is we've been on a program to replace these valves. And R&B Automation, we've used them for many, many years. They had the expertise to do this. They have the valves in stock. And what he's doing here with this crane is he's going to take this valve, he's going to drop it through this hatch, and it goes down about 17 feet. And then they have to horizontally roll this valve on a cart into position. And once they do that, they get it bolted up. See, it's all bolted up. And they have to fabricate, this is a stainless steel hub, because you can imagine 50 years ago, the valve stem, they used different sizes. So you have this torque tube that goes up to the actuator, and the interconnection is this steel hub. So R&B has an internal machine shop. They make these hubs. They machine it to fit the valve. And then this is the owner of the company, Brian. He comes out and he welds that. They have to position. Everything's got to be lined up, and they position it. Then he does the final welding, puts it all together. He's got a great crew. They're very, very good, but he is a hands-on owner, and he makes sure with Avek, he's always on site to do this type of finish work. So,
There's a question.
Yeah.
I see right, about halfway that pipe. So I see rust and stuff.
All right.
Do they paint that or coat that or anything?
Well, since it's in, the problem is this is in a filter effluent channel. So this is really the water that goes through those valves is fully treated. It's not disinfected yet. So it's very difficult to coat these with anything that's NF61 approved. Now this next picture, Frank, this will answer your question. So now you see these 6 valves all lined up, nice and brand new, ready for service. But you have these old pipes, and ultimately, these pipes have to be replaced. It's like anything. Everything has a lifespan. So, how would you go about replacing these pipes when they were actually installed before these concrete walls were poured? There's one way would be to demo the concrete, put a new pipe, form around it, put a water stop, and pour in place. Be very expensive, very disruptive. So we tasked R&B to kind of come up with a fix. How are we going to fix this? Because in the future, this has to be done. So they came up with an idea that they would, and it's all the same for all of them, but they would cut this pipe off flush with the wall. They would build a 1-inch thick stainless steel plate, and then they would anchor it to the wall with a thick gasket. And then they would take new pipe, they would weld it to that stainless steel plate, and then they would weld a new flange on and connect the valve. That way, it would be actually cheaper than doing demo work. And being stainless steel, it's going to last longer than we are. And it's quick, be fairly quick to do. So we'll probably be looking at, I would say, in the next 3 or 4 years, beginning that process of replacement.
Just start doing like one.
Yeah, I think. See, we can only keep the plant off for about 2 to 3 weeks, really. So we tasked R&B to say, okay, if we did this, how many could you do in that period of time? And if they can do 6 of them a year, that'd be great. The good thing is they can, they have in their shop, they're down in Temecula, they have the most incredible machinery, but they have machines that can cut these plates out, drill them. They can have everything pretty much fabricated. So all they're doing is coming up here and doing the installation. So they could do it pretty quick, quicker than I think, other places could do it. So anyway, that'll be coming in the future. We'll be bringing that to the board with some pricing and some, maybe we'll have some other ideas by then too, but I think that's the best idea.
No, I think your explanation is great, and I think that at least start looking at it and start coming back what it's going to cost
right
ahead of time, so we can start budgeting it over for the next couple of years.
Right, and Frank, that's a great segue to this last slide. So, what else do we do when we shut down the plant? Well, our operations and maintenance staff goes through the plant front to back, top to bottom, and we look at things that are going to be needed in the future so that we can do exactly that. We can plan, they're going through the plant this year with ideas for the next asset replacement budget that we're going to bring to the board for passage for the new fiscal year. But that's exactly what we do. We look forward because, we have to keep our facilities in tip-top shape. And with the very forward-thinking board that we've had for many years, and with the good financial management, we have reserves to do this type of work and keep our facilities in excellent shape. And that builds, it's not just for water quality, which is most important, but it builds public trust. When they see facilities and they see that these facilities look pretty much brand new and they're 50 years old, it just adds to public trust. So that's what we try to do. And again, we'll be bringing things to you in the future to meet those goals. And I'll be happy to answer any questions. Brand new. Yeah, brand new. And there's for submerged service, which are special valves. So yeah. Typical valve life is about 30 years for those big valves. We got almost 50 out of some of these, but I think a 30-year lifespan, you better start thinking about replacing them. And so since we have so many of these valves, we have to go like on a rotational basis. I mean, we might be doing some valves at Rosamond, at Eastside, but we just want to keep up on things. So, we kind of joke that it's great to do a good job now. That's a great thing. But there's going to be people coming after us that are going to have to operate and maintain these facilities. So we don't want to leave the cupboard empty for them. We want to leave the cupboard full so that when they take over these facilities, they're going to be in great shape.
I thought you had another 30 years, wasn't it?
I don't know.
We wish.
You're pretty optimistic. Thank you. Anyway, thank you for your time. And George, did you have a question?
Yeah, great presentation. I think this was a little more extensive than a lot of us thought it was going to be. So there was a lot of work was being done, and I'm sure fairly heavy cost right there. But in the future, I mean, let us know, and maybe we could have a little tour and explain some of those things that you've talked about, today. And maybe some of our customers might be interested in coming. Do something for, we can't watch everything being done, all day, but for maybe a couple hours right there. So
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do that, George. For our next shutdown, we'll let everybody know, because it is interesting to go into parts of the plant that are normally submerged. And some of our staff, some of our office people did that, and they were very impressed.
yeah, well, good. Could be here. It could be one of the other plants right there.
Right.
But thank you much.
Okay. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you, John.
Good report, John. Thanks.
And to carry on with the theme, we're going to bring up Justin Livesay, our engineering manager, and give a brief update on the High Desert Water Bank. As you know, we've typically gone through in detail with the High Desert Water Bank Committee and provided a monthly update to the board. But we want to take these off weeks just to give a brief update of construction activity going on at the site. And that's what tonight's presentation is. So take it away, Justin.
All right. Thank you, Matt. And good evening, President Lane and members of the board. It's be pretty brief. As Matt mentioned, we've got a pretty thorough presentation for the High Desert Water Bank Committee coming up, and we plan to bring that full, a little bit more detailed presentation back to the board here in the next 2-3 weeks, or our next board meeting. So I'm just going to hit a couple of highlights here. As you know, there's 3 construction projects that were ongoing over the last year or so. The State Water Project Turnout is a big one. Blois Construction, I've got a summary of the schedule here. So they began work at the end of May of last year, installed that cofferdam in August, and they have currently on their schedule plans to remove that cofferdam in February. So coming up pretty soon, they should be in a position where they can remove that. And then ultimate final completion of that project is scheduled right now for the end of March of 2023. So we're getting pretty close on it. The end of 2022, and of course through the first couple of weeks of January of 2023, there was limited progress on the project due to holidays and mostly the rain that we had through there, especially out in that area of the project. As just a reminder, this is out near 300th Street West and Avenue B of where the High Desert Water Bank is, out here on the west end of the valley. Some of the progress out there we're going to be working on for this week is working on the meter vault. They've got everything formed up to start pouring the concrete walls for the meter vault. And they're beginning work on the fiber optic cable to be installed along the aqueduct, which was one thing that DWR added to this contract so that they can communicate and see what's happening with our turnout when it's ultimately built and operational. I've got a handful of photos here, kind of show some of the work that's been done. You can see the aqueduct, of course, down here in the bottom. This is the cofferdam. You've all seen some photos of that before. Very large structure there. And then within that cofferdam, you can see where the aqueduct lining has been cut. And this is the new turnout structure right here, 2 sides. And going forward into the middle of the picture here, this is the location of that metering vault. So you can see they've got the walls formed up and everything around there. So they'll begin the concrete pour and build that up. To the right of it, a little bit difficult to see maybe in this picture, but this is the foundation here for what's going to be the control building for this turnout. And then way in the background, it's not this project, but I've got an update on that as well. You can see that Nicholas Construction, who's working on the recharge basins, has started some rough excavation here for where the pipeline is going to go. So some good work occurring out there. What happened to my clicker? Oh, there we go. Another shot. This is just another angle of the aqueduct turnout structure. You can see on the other side was where the gates are going to be. And then that water comes in, funnels in through here, and they'll be connecting 84-inch diameter pipe to the end of that structure there, and then through the metering vault coming to the bottom of that picture. Mentioned the rain. There's that site for the turnout got a little bit sloppy. There's quite a bit you can sort of see in this picture, but you got some standing water in here. They got really a lot of rain out there. And you can see from this trench, so here's that area where they're going to connect that 84-inch pipe to, and the metering vault structure here, but you can see there's just water completely in that trench. So they did have to take a couple days. This looks like they're pumping some of that water out of that trench that they have there, but they did have to let that dry out a little bit so that they can clear out some of the muck and get back to firm foundation to continue. So they're totally done, and we'll be coming to the board pretty soon for authorization to close that contract out. But for the recharge basins itself, the contractor performing that work is Nicholas Construction. They began work last summer. They had an early milestone, if you might remember, of completing what we call the stage 1 recharge basin area. So this is kind of the southeast quadrant of the project site, I guess you could say. And their milestone to complete that was mid-2023. So they're looking like they're going to hit July 10th for that area to be completely operational. We can store quite a bit of water in that early phase of the project. And so, if the hydrology turns out and we are getting some Article 21 water that, maybe Metropolitan fills up some of their priority places to store water, maybe they have a little bit of extra coming through the summer and fall months, and they might want to test out their new projects. So we should be in a good position to start that. And then
Justin, would this be a good time to ask a question?
Sure. Yeah. Anytime.
This is Shelley. Is there going to be a change order or additional cost to pumping out the water from the rain?
No, we don't envision a change order for the pumping. The program or the construction management team got a schedule update from the contractor recently. And so they're looking at what type of impacts the rain had on their schedule, but there should not be any cost impacts. So if they may claim, a few days for weather delays, but the construction management team's still evaluating that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Justin, what amount of water could be stored in the stage 1 basins?
So the stage 1 basins, according to the modeling report, can hold about 5,000 acre feet a month. So depending on, when they store water would, tell you how much they could get through that, maybe the rest of 23.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. As far as progress, again, they had a little bit of rain impacts on this project, not too much though. And they are out there working on the excavation. So that may have actually helped a little bit soften up that ground for them. And so they're continuing with the pipe trench excavations and finished grading of the stage 1 basin area. So they'll be continuing to work on that through the end of this month and into February. We've got a handful of photos here. This is 280th Street West looking to the north. And you can see, so this is, my mouse here, this is 280th Street going up. And you can see just that site out there, when it gets rainy and wet, it gets pretty sloppy. There's been some folks that almost got stuck in the mud and things like that over the time. But that site gets, all those dirt roads out there get pretty slick and sticky. Here's maybe the first recharge in our new recharge basins. We got some rain out there, so there you can see it's all pooling in the appropriate spots of the recharge basins, and hopefully was gone very shortly after it pooled there.
Are we taking credit for that storage?
Yeah, I wish we had a way to measure that. And then this is the northern area recharge. So this is what I mentioned is called that stage 1 recharge area. This is from the corner at 280th Street in the Aqueduct, looking to the northwest. And then this is kind of looking in the opposite direction. This is from the northeast corner looking southwest. So this is what we call the stage 2 area. Nicholas has started grading of those recharge basins up there, and got a little bit of water in those ones as well. Just another photo of some muddy water in those basins after the rains.
Yeah, starting to.
What's that?
Starting recharge.
We are, exactly. And that's kind of a similar photo to that what I showed you before, but this one has maybe a little bit better angle of the trench excavations that they're doing. So these are pretty wide. Some of these ultimate pipe trenches, some of the pipe is going to be 96 inches through some of this area. So pretty large pipe, so pretty deep excavation. So they've kind of started with a little bit shallower, wider cut before they get too deep and have to start shoring those trenches up. I think that's the last photo that I've got. So if there's any questions on that brief update, be happy to answer them.
I'm sure you already thought of this, but is there any way to expedite stage 1 by pulling crews off of stage 2 so we could start storing earlier?
No, not really. It's all the same thing, and really the limiting factor is going to be getting the pipe on site and installed in the ground. So
Yeah, I said you already thought of it.
yeah, yeah.
All right, thanks,
All right.
Justin.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good report.
And the last slide we have for the GM report is just upcoming events and schedules for related to the agency. Tomorrow we have our Water Master Board meeting. It's in person or via Zoom at 10 a.m. We have the harassment prevention training offered through JPIA. That's on the 26th at 10 a.m. So if you need that training, get with Holly and sign up. We have the Edwards Solar Project ribbon cutting event coming up on the 2nd of February at 1:15. I know there's at least one director that has RSVP'd for that and a couple staff going with him. We have a holiday coming up on the 20th of February. Item number 5 is the Urban Water Institute. We have one director signed up for that event. If you haven't and have interest, let Holly know on that. But it's a good conference. I attended last fall, and it's great. So that is going to be in Palm Springs area. Yeah. And then lastly, I think we mentioned this before, we have the AV Edge Spring Summit coming up at the AV Fairgrounds at the end of February. So I know a couple people have reached out to Holly to get signed up for that event. So if you are interested and we have enough folks, we'll probably just get a table at that event. That is Forbes, Steve Forbes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, if we get enough people showing interest.
Okay.
And that's all I have for my report presently.
Thank you. You mentioned some time ago, we talked about it may be time for a tour of the water bank, the west side water bank. So maybe we could try to work on that for February. And a lot of times everybody can't make it at the same group, so may have to work with the directors and may have to two different tours. Right there.
Yeah, that'd be good.
But
we'll
I think
get that scheduled.
It's been a long time since the last one. I know lots happened.
Yeah, be good to see some of the activity out there.
Yeah. Okay, thank you much.
Thank you.
Report. Next item number 11. If any of the directors have any reports or information, now's the time. Absent, that, we'll move on to item number 12, attorney report.
Nothing to report, President Lang.
Thank you. Any requests for future agenda items? Okay, we'll move on to item number 14, old business and closed session. So I guess we'll have a motion to go into closed session, and maybe we'll take a couple of minute recess. Right?
Yeah, and we do have a reason to go in for item B under closed session.
Okay, let's take a couple of minute recess, and we'll.
Do you want a motion to go into closed session?
Yeah, that'll be fine. Yeah,
I'll move that we go into closed session.
Okay, motion by Director Parrish. Do we have a second? Okay, we have a motion and second. Madam Secretary?
Gary Van Dam.
Yes.
Audrey Miller.
Yes.
Robert Parrish.
Yes.
Keith Gaius.
Yes.
Holly Sorsable.
Yes.
Frank Donato.
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. And we'll take a couple of minute recess and come back in closed session.
Great.
And again, thank you for coming, everyone. It was nice to see some people in the audience.